The gunshot echoed through the alley, and Amara's textbook hit the wet pavement. She stood frozen, her breath caught somewhere between her lungs and her throat, as 3 men in black suits turned toward her. The 4th man, the one holding the gun over a body that would never move again, buzzed his head slowly. His eyes found hers across the darkness, cold and calculating, like a predator, assessing whether she was prey or witness. She ran. Her sneakers pounded against the concrete as she fled through the maze of Seoul's backstreets, her heart hammering so violently she thought it might break through her ribs. Behind her she heard shouting in Korean, footsteps multiplying. She'd taken this shortcut 100 times from the library to her tiny apartment in Hongdae. But tonight, on this rainy November evening, she'd stumbled into something that would destroy everything. Amara burst onto a main street, gasping for air, and dove into a crowd of people leaving a nightclub. She pushed through bodies, ignoring the annoyed shouts, and ducked into a 24-hour convenience store. The fluorescent lights felt too bright, too exposing. She grabbed a basket with shaking hands and pretended to shop, watching the door through the reflection in the refrigerated section. 2 men in suits walked past slowly, scanning faces. One of them stopped, looked directly at the store window. Amara turned away, her pulse roaring in her ears. She counted to 60, then to 100. When she finally dared to look again, they were gone. But she'd seen his face, the man with the gun, and worse than that, he'd seen hers. The next morning, Amara tried to convince herself it had been a nightmare. She went to class at Korea University, took notes on international trade agreements, had lunch with her study group. Everything felt surreal, like she was moving through water. Her hands still trembled when she held her pen. "You okay?" David, her Korean-American classmate, touched her shoulder gently. "You seem distracted." "I'm fine," she lied, forcing a smile. "Just didn't sleep well." She left campus at 4, took the subway home and climbed the 3 flights to her apartment. The moment she unlocked her door, she knew something was wrong. The air felt different, disturbed. She stepped inside slowly, and her blood turned to ice. He was sitting on her small couch, perfectly still, dressed in an expensive charcoal suit. The man from the alley. Up close, she could see he was younger than she'd thought. Maybe early 30s with sharp features and eyes that held absolutely no warmth. 2 other men flanked the door behind her, blocking any escape. "Sit down, Miss Okonkwo," he said in perfect English, his accent barely noticeable. His voice was quiet, controlled, more terrifying than if he'd shouted. Amara's legs moved on their own, carrying her to the chair across from him. Her mind screamed at her to run, to fight, to do something. But her body had gone into survival mode, obeying the apex, predator in her living room. "My name is Kang Min-jae," he continued, studying her like she was a problem to be solved. "And you've created a complication for me." "I won't tell anyone," Amara whispered, hating how small her voice sounded. "I didn't see anything. I'll forget everything. Please." "You saw everything," Min-jae corrected, leaning forward slightly. "And unfortunately, I can't build my business on the promises of strangers." He paused and something flickered across his face, too quick to read. "I have 2 options for you. The first is permanent and unpleasant. The second is unconventional." Amara's throat closed. "What's the second option?" "You marry me." The words hung in the air between them, so absurd that for a moment Amara thought she'd misheard. "What?" "You're here on a student visa, isolated from your family, no close ties in Korea. You'll marry me, move into my home, and remain under my supervision. You'll be my wife in name and appearance. In exchange, you keep your life and continue your studies." "That's insane," Amara breathed, anger finally cutting through her fear. "You can't just force someone to marry you." Minjai's expression didn't change. "I can do a great many things, Miss Okonkwo. The question is what you're willing to accept." He nodded to one of his men, who placed a tablet on the coffee table. On the screen was a photo of her family home in Lagos, her mother hanging laundry in the yard, her younger brother playing football in the street. "No!" Amara gasped, tears burning her eyes. "No, please. They have nothing to do with this." "They have everything to do with this," Minjai said quietly. "Because they're the reason you'll say yes. They're the reason you'll sign the papers, smile at the courthouse, and play the role of devoted wife. They're the reason you'll never try to run, never go to the police, never speak of what you saw." He stood buttoning his jacket. "You have 24 hours to decide. My men will be watching." He walked to the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, Miss Okonkwo, I don't enjoy this, but I protect what's mine, and I eliminate threats. Choose which one you'd rather be." The door closed and Amara collapsed forward, sobbing into her hands. 2 days later, she signed the marriage certificate in a small government office in Gangnam. Minjai had arranged everything, bribing officials, producing fake documents, showing a whirlwind romance. Amara wore a simple white dress he'd had delivered to her apartment. She signed her name with a hand that no longer shook, her tears already dried. Grief had given way to a cold, numb acceptance. When they exited the building as husband and wife, Minjai placed a large diamond ring on her finger. "You'll wear this always," he instructed. "We have an image to maintain." "What image?" Amara asked bitterly. "Everyone knows what you are. They know I'm powerful. They don't need to know I'm careless enough to leave witnesses." He opened the door of a black Mercedes. "Get in. I'll show you your new home." The penthouse overlooked the Han River, spanning the entire top floor of a luxury building in Cheongdam-dong. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of Seoul that would have taken Amara's breath away under any other circumstances. The interior was all clean lines and cold surfaces, minimalist furniture in blacks and greys, more like a high-end hotel than a home. "Your bedroom is the second door on the left," Minjai said, walking to the bar and pouring himself whiskey. "Mine is at the end of the hall. You won't enter it without permission. Ji-hoon will be your personal guard. He'll accompany you everywhere, report your movements to me, and ensure you don't make foolish choices." A stocky man in his 20s stepped forward and bowed slightly. His face was expressionless, professional. "I'm not a prisoner," Amara said, her voice hardening. Minjai looked at her over his glass. "Aren't you?" He set down the whiskey. "Let me be clear about the rules. You'll continue your studies, maintain contact with your family as normal, and attend events with me when required. You'll act the part of a loving wife in public. In private, you'll stay out of my business, ask no questions, and cause no problems. Break these rules, and there are consequences. Do you understand?" "I understand that you're a monster," Amara said, meeting his cold stare with her own rising anger. "I understand that you're so afraid of your own weakness that you have to control everyone around you. I understand that you'll never know what it means to have someone choose you instead of fear you." Something dangerous flashed in Minjai's eyes. He crossed the space between them in 3 strides, and Amara's courage faltered. But he didn't touch her. He just stood close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "You know nothing about me," he said softly, his voice like silk over steel. "And you'd be wise to keep it that way. Show her to her room, Ji-hun." The weeks that followed were suffocating. Amara went to class with Ji-hun trailing 10 steps behind, came home to the cold penthouse, and ate silent dinners across from a husband who barely acknowledged her existence. Min-jae left early, returned late, and communicated only in clipped instructions. She video-called her family twice a week on a monitored phone, lying through her teeth about her wonderful new life, her romantic marriage to a successful businessman. Her mother's joy broke her heart every time. But Amara refused to disappear. She played Nigerian music in the kitchen, cooked jollof rice and egusi soup that filled the sterile penthouse with warmth and spice. She rearranged the flowers the housekeepers brought, adding color to the monochrome space. She spoke when Min-jae expected silence, asked questions he didn't want to answer, existed loudly in a place designed for shadows. It infuriated him. "Must you do that?" he asked one evening, finding her cooking in the kitchen, Afro beats pulsing from her phone. "Do what? Cook? Eat? Exist?" Amara didn't look up from the pot she was stirring. "Make noise. Create disorder." He loosened his tie, irritation clear in every line of his body. "I'm not a ghost, Min-jae. You can force me to live here, but you can't force me to disappear." She finally turned to face him. "And it's not disorder. It's called life. You should try it sometime." His jaw tightened. "I didn't bring you here to redecorate my existence." "No, you brought me here to control me. But you're learning that some things can't be controlled, aren't you?" She turned back to her cooking, heart pounding at her own boldness. Min-jae stared at her back for a long moment, and then did something unexpected. He left the kitchen without another word, but he didn't turn off her music. The first real crack in their Cold War came 3 weeks into the marriage. Min-jae had a business dinner, some gathering of associates that required his wife's presence. Amara dressed carefully in a deep green dress that honored her heritage, while fitting Korean formal standards. When she emerged from her bedroom, Min-jae was waiting by the door, and for just a second, something shifted in his expression before the mask returned. "You look appropriate," he said stiffly. "Thank you for that overwhelming compliment." Amara replied dryly, accepting the coat Ji-hun held for her. The restaurant was exclusive, the kind of place where everyone spoke in quiet voices and every face held secrets. Min-jae introduced her simply as his wife, and Amara played her part, smiling graciously, nodding at appropriate moments. She felt eyes on her constantly, assessing, judging, wondering about the African woman who'd somehow married Kang Min-jae. "Your wife is stunning," a voice said smoothly. Amara turned to find a man about Min-jae's age, handsome in an obvious way, his smile too practiced. "I'm Park Tae-sung, an old friend of your husband's." "Friend is generous," Min-jae said coldly, his hand suddenly at the small of Amara's back, possessive. "Rival is more accurate." Such harsh words. Tae-sung's eyes remained on Amara, openly appreciating. How did a man with a heart of ice win such a warm prize? Tell me, Mrs. Kang. Was it his charm or his romantic nature that won you over? Amara felt Min-jae tense beside her, sensed the danger in the air like electricity before a storm. "It was his honesty," she said carefully, trying to diffuse whatever was building. "He's exactly who he appears to be." Tae-sung laughed. "Clever and beautiful. You're wasted on him, Mrs. Kang. If you ever tire of the cold, I'd be happy to show you warmth." Min-jae moved so fast that Amara barely saw it. One moment he was beside her. The next he had Tae-sung's collar in his fist, slamming him against the wall. The restaurant went silent. "Touch her, speak to her, even look at her again," Minjai said, his voice deadly quiet. "And I'll make sure you spend the rest of your short life regretting it. She's mine. Remember that." Security moved in, pulling them apart. Minjai smoothed his jacket, took Amara's elbow with surprising gentleness, and led her out of the restaurant. They drove home in tense silence, Ji-hun wisely saying nothing from the front seat. Once in the penthouse, Amara rounded on him. "What the hell was that?" "That was handling a threat," Minjai said, pouring whiskey with a hand that wasn't quite steady. "A threat? He was just talking to me." Amara's anger exploded, weeks of frustration pouring out. "You nearly started a war because another man spoke to me." "He wasn't just speaking. He was testing boundaries, making claims on what's mine." "I'm not a possession. I'm not yours. You said this was an arrangement, a business transaction." She was shouting now, beyond caring. "You don't get to act jealous when you don't even want me." Minjai spun to face her, and there was something raw in his expression that stopped her cold. "Don't I?" he asked quietly. "Don't I want you? Is that what you think?" Amara's breath caught. "You said it yourself. This is business, protection, control." "I said many things." He took a step closer, then another. "I said you were a complication, a liability, a problem to be managed. But what I didn't say, what I can't seem to stop thinking, is that you're also the most infuriating, stubborn, beautiful woman I've ever met. That your voice fills this empty apartment with something I didn't know I was missing. That the thought of Tae-sung or any other man touching you makes me want to burn the world down." Amara's heart hammered against her ribs. "You don't mean that." "I don't want to mean it," Minjai corrected, and the distinction was everything. "I don't want to feel anything. Emotions are weakness. Vulnerability is death in my world. But you, Amara Okonkwo, you make me weak, and I hate you for it, even as I can't stand to be away from you." He was close now, so close she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. "So yes, I'm jealous. I'm possessive. I'm territorial over something that isn't really mine. Because the truth is, I don't love you." He paused, and his next words were barely a whisper. "But I'll ruin you for any man who thinks he can have you." The kiss was inevitable, a collision of anger and attraction, and weeks of unspoken tension. Amara kissed him back hard, pouring all her frustration and confusion into it. And when they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the world had shifted on its axis. "This doesn't change anything," Amara said, her voice shaking. "It changes everything," Minjai replied. But the real world had a way of interrupting moments. Minjai's phone buzzed urgently. He checked it, and his expression hardened. "I have to go. Business. Ji-hun will stay with you." "At midnight?" "My business doesn't keep office hours." He grabbed his jacket, then paused at the door. "Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone but me." He left, and Amara stood in the silent penthouse, her lips still tingling, her world more complicated than ever. The next morning things were awkward. Minjai was already gone when Amara woke. She went to class, trying to focus on lectures about trade regulations, when all she could think about was that kiss. David approached her after class, concerned. "Hey, you've been really distant lately. Is everything okay with you and your husband?" Amara forced a smile. "Everything's fine, just adjusting to married life." "If you ever need to talk, I'm here," David said earnestly. "I know I'm just a friend, but friends look out for each other." "Thank you, David, really." She meant it. In this strange new life, his kindness was a reminder that good people still existed. Ji-hoon reported the conversation to Min-jae within the hour. That evening, Min-jae was waiting when she came home. "Who is David?" "A classmate, a friend." Amara set down her bag, already exhausted. "Are we really going to do this? Are you going to interrogate me about every conversation?" "He offered himself as emotional support. That's a problem." "It's called friendship. Normal people have friends." Amara's voice rose. "What do you want from me, Min-jae? To have no one. To depend only on you. To be completely isolated." "I want you safe," he said, and there was something desperate underneath the words. "I want you protected. I want to know where you are, who you're with, that you're not in danger." "Then you want a prisoner, not a wife." "I want—" He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "I don't know what I want. This wasn't supposed to happen. You weren't supposed to matter." "But I do matter," Amara said softly, understanding suddenly dawning. "Don't I? That's what scares you. Not that you can't control me, but that you can't control how you feel about me." Min-jae turned away, hands clenched. "I've spent 15 years building walls, Amara. Building power, making sure no one could ever hurt me again. And you walk into my life, forced into my home, and somehow you're dismantling everything." He laughed bitterly. "Do you know what my mother did? She left me when I was 8, dropped me at an orphanage and never looked back. The Mafia raised me. They taught me that attachment is weakness, that caring for someone gives them power over you. They taught me that love is a weapon people use against you." Amara's anger softened. "I'm not your mother, Min-jae. And this, whatever this is between us, it's not a weapon. Isn't it?" He finally faced her, and his eyes were haunted. "Tae-sung knows now. He saw my reaction. Every enemy I have now knows that you're my weakness. They'll use you against me. They'll try to take you to hurt me. And I can't—" His voice cracked. "I can't let that happen. So what's your solution? Lock me away? Push me away? Pretend last night didn't happen? My solution is to keep you so close that no one can reach you. To make it absolutely clear to every man and soul that you're mine, and the consequences of touching you are death." He moved closer, his intensity almost overwhelming. "I don't love you, Amara. I won't lie and say I do. But I'm obsessed with you, consumed by you. And yes, I will ruin you for any man who thinks he has a chance, because the thought of you with someone else is unbearable." "That's not healthy," Amara whispered, even as her heart raced. "Nothing about me is healthy," Min-jae agreed. "But it's the truth. So the question is, can you live with that? Can you live with a man who will be possessive and territorial and probably make you furious daily? A man who comes from darkness and doesn't know how to love but will protect you with everything he has?" Amara should have said no, should have demanded he let her go, should have run far away from this dangerous, damaged man. But she thought about the glimpses of vulnerability she'd seen, the way he listened when she spoke about her family, the way he'd never touched her with anything but gentleness despite his threats. "I can live with it," she said quietly, "if you promise me something." "What?" Try to let me in. Try to trust me. Try to believe that maybe, just maybe, caring about someone doesn't always end in pain." Min-jae stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. "I'll try. I can't promise I'll succeed, but I'll try." It was enough. For now, it was enough. The crisis came 2 weeks later. Tae-sung made his move, having his men stage a kidnapping attempt when Amara was leaving campus. Ji-hoon fought them off, but not before taking a bullet to the shoulder. Amara ended up barricaded in a classroom, armed guards at the door, while Ji-hoon radioed for help through gritted teeth. Min-jae arrived like a storm, bringing 20 men and barely controlled rage. The fight was brutal and quick, Min-jae himself taking down 3 of Tae-sung's people before reaching Amara. When he finally burst through the classroom door, blood on his knuckles and murder in his eyes, Amara ran to him without thinking. "Are you hurt?" He grabbed her face in his hands, searching for injuries, his thumb gentle despite his shaking hands. "I'm fine. Ji-hoon saved me. He's been shot. I know. Medical team is with him." Min-jae pulled her against his chest, and Amara felt him trembling. "When I got the call, when I thought—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "I'm okay," Amara whispered into his shirt. "I'm okay." They stood like that for a long moment, surrounded by concerned guards and campus security, the reality of their situation settling over them like a heavy blanket. That night, back at the penthouse, Min-jae didn't leave her side. He sat with her on the couch, closer than necessary, his hand holding hers like she might disappear if he let go. "I'm ending this war with Tae-sung," he said quietly. Permanently. He crossed a line. "Will it ever end?" Amara asked. "The violence? The danger?" "I don't know," Min-jae admitted. "This is my world, Amara. It's dark and dangerous and sometimes brutal. I can't change that." "I'm not asking you to change," Amara said, turning to face him. "I'm asking if there's space in your world for something besides darkness, for hope, for us." Min-jae was quiet for a long time. Then he did something he'd never done before. He pulled her close and just held her, his chin resting on top of her head. "I don't know how to do this," he confessed. "I don't know how to be someone's husband, how to love without controlling, how to protect without imprisoning. All I know is that losing you would destroy me." "Then don't lose me," Amara said simply. "Let me stand beside you, not behind you. Let me be your partner, not your possession. Let me love you, even if you don't know how to love me back yet." "You love me?" Min-jae pulled back to look at her face, disbelief and something vulnerable in his expression. "I think I might," Amara admitted. "Even though you kidnapped me, forced me into marriage, and made my life impossibly complicated. Even though you're controlling and possessive and sometimes infuriating. Even though I should hate you." She cupped his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. "You're also the man who lets me play my music, who listens when I talk about home, who would burn down the city to keep me safe. So yes, I think I love you. I think I've been falling for you since you first let your walls crack." Min-jae closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, they were bright with unshed tears. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not," Amara agreed with a small smile. "But you have me anyway. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" For an answer, Min-jae kissed her. It was different from their first kiss, less desperate, more reverent. When he pulled back, he rested his forehead against hers. "I don't love you," he whispered, and Amara's heart clenched until he continued. "I'm obsessed with you, addicted to you. You're in my head every moment, in my chest like a constant ache. You've taken over my life, my thoughts, my every decision. What I feel for you is bigger than love, more consuming. It's terrifying and overwhelming, and I don't have words for it because no one ever taught me the vocabulary for this." "That sounds like love, Min-jae," Amara said softly. "If it is, then you've ruined me." he replied. "Ruined me for any woman, any life, any existence that doesn't have you in it. You wanted me to let you in. You're not just in, Amara. You're everything." Amara's tears finally fell, and Minjai wiped them away with his thumbs, his touch impossibly gentle for a man with so much blood on his hands. "I don't love you," he repeated one more time, and this time, Amara heard the truth underneath. He was afraid to call it love, afraid that naming it would make it real, would give it power to hurt him. But what he felt was love, even if he couldn't say it yet. "Okay," she whispered. "You don't love me, but you'll ruin me for any man, and I'll ruin you for any woman. We'll be ruined together." Minjai laughed, the sound rough and genuine. "Together," he agreed. They sat there in the quiet penthouse, holding each other, two people from different worlds who'd been forced together by violence and circumstance, but had chosen to stay for something infinitely more complicated. It wasn't a fairy tale. Minjai was still dangerous, still possessive, still struggling with concepts like trust and vulnerability. Amara still missed her freedom, still grieved for the life she'd lost, still wrestled with loving someone who'd taken so much from her. But it was real, messy and complicated and sometimes painful, but real. And for now, that was enough. 3 months later, Amara finished her graduate degree. Minjai sat in the audience, out of place among the proud parents and friends, but there nonetheless. When she walked across the stage, she saw him smile, small and private, just for her. That evening he gave her a gift, a divorce petition, unsigned. "What's this?" Amara asked, staring at the papers. "A choice," Minjai said quietly. "When I married you, you had no choice. Everything was forced, coerced, built on fear. But you have your degree now. Your family is protected regardless of what you decide. So I'm giving you what I took away, the freedom to choose." Amara's hands trembled as she held the papers. "What if I choose to leave?" Something painful flashed across Minjai's face. "Then I'll let you go, and I'll spend the rest of my life knowing I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. And if I choose to stay? Then you stay knowing exactly who I am, what I am, and all the complications that come with it. No illusions, no pretending. Just the truth." Amara looked at the papers, then at the man who'd been her captor, her husband, her unlikely love. She thought about everything they'd been through, every fight and revelation, every moment of vulnerability and connection. Then she walked to the fireplace and dropped the papers into the flames. "I choose you," she said simply. "Not because I have to, but because I want to. I choose this complicated, messy, sometimes infuriating life with you." Minjai crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. "I love you," he said, the words rough and unpracticed, but finally spoken. "I love you so much it scares me. I don't know if I'll ever be good at this, if I'll ever stop being possessive or controlling or intense. But I love you." Amara laughed through her tears. "See? That wasn't so hard." "It was terrifying," Minjai corrected, but he was smiling too. "You're terrifying. You've completely destroyed me." "Good," Amara said, pulling him down for a kiss. "We're ruined together, remember? That was the deal." And it was. They were ruined for anyone else, bound together by choice now instead of force, building something new from the broken pieces of how they'd started. It wouldn't always be easy. Minjai's world was still dangerous, still dark in places. But they'd face it together, the Korean Mafia boss and his African wife, 2 people who'd found love in the least likely place. Sometimes the best stories don't start with love at first sight. Sometimes they start with terror and desperation and impossible circumstances. Sometimes they start with a man who doesn't know how to love, telling a woman he'll ruin her for anyone else. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's exactly where they're meant to begin. If you love this story of unexpected love and transformation, hit that subscribe button for more intense romance stories. Drop a comment telling us what you thought about Amara and Minjai's journey. And don't forget to like this video. We read every comment, and your support means everything. What would you have done in Amara's position? Let us know below, and we'll see you in the next story.